The rain had been falling for 3 hours when 10 children appeared at the gate of Black Creek Ranch. Behind them stood a woman in a soaked brown dress, holding the hand of the smallest child. Her boots were covered in mud, her hair clung to her face, and she looked as though she had walked through half the county to reach that gate. The ranch owner, Caleb Mercer, stepped onto the porch with a lantern in his hand. He stared at the 11 strangers. The oldest boy, perhaps 17, stood in front of his brothers and sisters as if he were ready to defend them from the entire world. Caleb looked at the woman. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "who are you?" The woman swallowed hard. "My name is Clara Bell. I'm looking for work." Caleb glanced at the children. "All 10 of them?" She nodded. "They're my children." Thunder rolled across the valley. Caleb had spent 12 years building Black Creek Ranch into something that could survive drought, cattle thieves, and bad winters. He had no wife, no children, and no desire to change that. But there was something about the way those children looked at him. Not begging, not crying, just waiting. Clara lowered her eyes. "We heard your ranch needed hands. I can cook, clean, mend clothes, milk cows, work the garden. My oldest boys can handle cattle. The younger ones can help too. We don't need charity." Caleb noticed the smallest girl shivering beneath a torn shawl. "You've been walking?" "For 2 days." "And where were you before that?" Clara hesitated. "Dry Creek." Caleb's face changed. Dry Creek was nearly 40 miles away.
No woman with 10 children could have crossed that distance without a reason.
He looked again at the children. Then he opened the gate. "You can tell me the reason tomorrow." Clara looked surprised. Caleb stepped aside. "Tonight you're getting dry." She stared at him. "We can't pay." "I didn't ask you to." The children entered slowly. The smallest girl looked up at Caleb. "Are you the owner?"
"Yes."
"Are you mean?" One of the older boys gasped. Caleb almost smiled. "No." The girl considered that. "Good." For the first time in years, Caleb heard laughter inside his house. By morning, the rain had stopped. The ranch felt different. Children were everywhere. One was carrying firewood nearly twice his size. 2 were arguing over a bucket. The youngest had discovered Caleb's old saddle and was sitting on it backward. Clara moved through the kitchen with quiet efficiency. Caleb watched from the doorway. "You don't have to work this hard," he said. She looked over her shoulder. "If I stop, I start thinking." "Thinking about what?" She returned to the stove. "Why we had to leave." That answer stayed with him. Over the next few weeks, the family became part of Black Creek Ranch. The boys repaired fences. The girls helped Clara with meals and laundry. Even the youngest children found ways to be useful. Caleb expected chaos. Instead, he discovered something he had never known his ranch needed: noise, warmth, people waiting for him when he came home. But Clara remained guarded. She never spoke about Dry Creek. Then Caleb found the first clue. One afternoon, while repairing a loose shutter in the kitchen, he noticed an old photograph tucked behind a wooden beam. It showed a young woman standing beside a handsome rancher. The woman was Clara. The man was Caleb's younger brother, Daniel. Caleb froze. Daniel had been dead for 11 years. That evening, Caleb placed the photograph on the table. Clara went pale. "You knew him," Caleb said. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid you would send us away." Caleb's voice hardened. "Who were those children?" Clara looked toward the hallway where the children were sleeping. "All 10 are Daniel's." The room became silent. Caleb sat down. His brother had died in a cattle accident 11 years earlier. At least that was what everyone had told him. "Daniel had a family?" Clara nodded. "He promised he would come back for us." "Why didn't he?" "He tried." She reached into her dress and pulled out a folded letter. "He sent this 3 days before he died." Caleb read it. Daniel had written that he was returning to Black Creek Ranch because he had discovered something about their father's estate, something dangerous. He had also written that he wanted Caleb to meet his children, but the letter had never arrived. Caleb looked up. "Who stopped it?" Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know." A cold feeling settled in Caleb's chest. His father's ranch had been left to both brothers. After Daniel's death, Caleb had believed Daniel had no heirs and taken responsibility for the entire property. But if Daniel had 10 children, then someone had hidden them from him. The next morning, Caleb rode to town. At the sheriff's office, he found an old ledger from the year Daniel died. There it was, a payment made to a traveling man named Silas Crow. Crow had been the foreman of Black Creek Ranch. Caleb remembered him. Silas had disappeared shortly after Daniel's death. The sheriff shook his head. Crow left the territory years ago. Where? Don't know. But Caleb knew someone who might. The old station master remembered. Crow buying 11 train tickets on the night Daniel died. 11. Caleb returned home with a terrible thought. Clara and the children had not simply been abandoned. Someone had made sure they disappeared. That night, Caleb told Clara what he had learned. She covered her mouth. Daniel wasn't killed by an accident, was he? Caleb shook his head. I don't know. Before they could say more, a horse thundered into the yard. A man climbed down. Silas Crow. Older now, with silver hair and a limp. But Caleb recognized him immediately. He raised both hands. I didn't come to fight. Caleb reached for his rifle anyway. Then why are you here? Crow looked toward the house. To tell the truth before it's too late. Inside, the children gathered silently. Crow revealed what had happened. Daniel had discovered that their father had left a large portion of the ranch to his future children. Silas had been offered money by a land speculator who wanted the property, but Silas had refused to kill Daniel. Instead, the speculator arranged the accident himself. When Daniel died, the man's lawyer claimed Daniel had no children. Clara, who had been staying with relatives, was threatened and forced to leave town. Silas had secretly helped her escape with the children. I was a coward, he admitted. I should have told the truth years ago. Caleb stared at him. Why now? Silas reached into his coat. Because the man who paid for it is coming back. He handed Caleb a document. The name at the bottom belonged to Amos Pike, the wealthiest landowner in the county. Pike had spent years buying pieces of land around Black Creek, and now he wanted the ranch. The next morning, Pike arrived with 2 lawyers. He offered Caleb an enormous sum of money. Sell, Pike said. Take the money and start again somewhere else. Caleb looked at Clara, then at the children. No, Pike smiled. You don't understand. The law says those children have no claim. Caleb placed Daniel's letter on the table. Then we'll let the law decide. Pike's smile disappeared. The case went before the county judge. For weeks, the children stayed at the ranch while old records were collected. Every document seemed to create another problem. Then the youngest girl, Lucy, found something nobody else had noticed. She had been playing beneath the old barn stairs when she discovered a loose board. Behind it was a small iron box. Inside was Daniel's original land agreement, bearing their father's seal. It proved everything. The ranch had never belonged solely to Caleb. Half of it belonged to Daniel's children. Pike's claim collapsed, but the victory did not feel complete. Caleb sat alone on the porch that evening, staring across the fields. Clara joined him. You saved us, she said. No. He looked at her. You saved yourselves. I only opened the gate. Clara smiled sadly. You gave us a home when nobody else would. Caleb looked toward the barn where the children were laughing. I used to think a home was something you built with timber and stone. What do you think now? He watched the youngest children chase each other through the grass. A home is the people who make you want to come back. Clara's eyes filled with tears. For years, Caleb had believed his brother's death had left him with nothing but land and memories. Now he understood that Daniel had left him something far greater, a family he never knew existed. Months passed. Black Creek Ranch changed. The children planted a garden beside the house. The older boys became skilled cattle hands. The girls learned to ride. Lucy kept stealing Caleb's hat and hiding it in the barn. Clara stayed, not because she owed him anything, because little by little she had stopped being afraid. One evening, Caleb found her standing beside the fence as the sun turned the mountains gold. You could leave, he said. I know. Why don't you? She looked at the house. Because the children don't call this place the ranch anymore. Caleb smiled. What do they call it? Home. He looked down, hiding the emotion in his eyes. Clara reached for his hand. You know, Caleb, you were alone before we came. I was. And now? He looked at the 10 children running across the yard. Now I don't remember what alone felt like. The following spring, the first rain came softly over Black Creek. Caleb stood on the porch while Clara and the children ran through the wet grass. The same rain that had once brought a frightened mother to his gate now washed the dust from the fields and filled the air with the promise of new life. Caleb watched Clara laughing with the children. Then he looked at the old wooden gate. He remembered that stormy night. A woman had arrived with 10 children and nowhere to go. He had thought he was giving them shelter for one night. He had not known they were bringing him the family he had been missing all his life. And as the rain fell gently over Black Creek Ranch, Caleb finally understood the greatest truth his lonely years had taught him. Sometimes the people who arrive at your door, asking for a home, are the very people who were meant to make it one.